great at your job, but maybe you're not quite as great at conveying that to a potential employer. My name is Marcie. I'm the president of Avalon Employment Consulting, and today I'm going to share with you how to have success in interviewing. Today we're going to understand the importance of the job interview in the job seeking process, find out how to prepare for an interview, learn to anticipate and be ready for various interview questions, and know how to close an interview effectively. Very rarely will anyone be hired without an interview. In fact, typically there are multiple interviews: a phone interview, face-to-face interview, possibly even a panel interview. You can have the best skills in the world, but if you interview poorly, you're not going to get the job. I want to give you a little encouragement that no matter how bad you might flub an interview, I'm sure it's not going to be worse than some of these examples. And these are true stories. A candidate threw up on the interviewer's desk and then proceeded to ask questions as if nothing had happened. Eee! Another situation, the candidate continually interrupted the interview to phone his therapist to ask for specific answers to interview questions. And then another candidate took out his lunch and proceeded to eat that in front of the interviewer. This is not the time to dine in the middle of an interview. Let me cover some general hints about appearance. First impressions are very important. There's research that shows the first impression is made within the first 10 seconds. They've already determined whether or not they like you, at least. You want to make sure you dress in a business-like and professional manner. But what exactly does that mean? You should generally dress one level above what you'd wear to work. If you're going to be working in a business casual environment, you'd wear a shirt and tie or a tailored dress or a pantsuit. But if you're going to be working in an industrial situation, then business casual is appropriate. You also want to make sure you don't wear sunglasses. You want to make direct eye contact with the interviewer, and you can't do that if your eyes are covered. Don't fidget or chew gum. Sometimes people are nervous and they have nervous habits of fidgeting. You want to really try to keep that under control. Put your hands in your lap and hold still. You want to be a good listener. Don't interrupt. And don't finish the interviewer's sentences. That's rude. You want to be friendly but professional. Smile, but not a permagrin the whole time. I want to share some hints for practical preparation. The first is to bring extra copies of your resume. I know they already have a copy that was either emailed to them or pulled from an applicant tracking system, but it shows professionalism and preparation to bring extra. And you never know who's going to end up getting pulled into the interview, especially if it's going well. You also need to make sure that you know the location, especially if the organization has multiple sites. I worked for a company that had 3 locations close together, and we were constantly having people show up at the wrong place because it was right down the street from the main headquarters that had the big sign, and everybody would assume that they knew where they were going. You also want to arrive early, but not too early. If I scheduled you for a 3 o'clock interview and you get there at 3:05, obviously that's bad. But if you get there at 2:30, that's also not great. The reason for this is because either I'm scrambling to rearrange my day to get you in because I don't want to leave you waiting all that time, or I am feeling guilty about leaving you in the lobby for 30 minutes. If you do end up getting there very early, please have the person conveying the information to the recruiter notify them that you are aware that you're very early and you're fine with waiting till your scheduled interview time. Otherwise, you can just stay in your car or in the lobby until about 1:45, and that's the appropriate time to go ahead and let them know that you're there. You also want to make sure you maintain a positive attitude. I know this isn't always easy. It can be discouraging if you're going on a lot of interviews and haven't been selected. But if you end up feeling negative, that comes across in an interview and it's a turn-off. And then very importantly, you need to make sure you understand the job and your suitability for it. That is the whole point of the interview, is to show how you are a fit for that position. And then finally, relax. There are some common mistakes that people make when it comes to interviewing. The first is not researching the company. Often the first question in an interview is, what do you know about our company? If you can't answer that effectively, obviously that sets a poor tone for the interview. Another is not role-playing for the interview. You need to make sure you're practicing over and over again so you're very comfortable and confident when you go into the interview. Also, not having questions. You should prepare 3 to 5 questions to ask at the end of the interview, and then ask 1 to 3 of those. Not knowing your expected salary. I'm amazed how many people get stumped when it comes to this question. Make sure you have a realistic salary range going into the interview. Another is criticizing former employers. There are a few concerns with this. One is, if you criticize them to us, what's to stop you from criticizing us to your next potential employer? But also, in any conflict situation, there are 2 sides to the story, and if you're putting all the blame on the employer, it shows a lack of accountability. Another is being too passive, lacking passion. We want to see you're excited, you're fired up about what you do, and you're excited about coming to work for us. Otherwise, if you come across like a dud, that's going to be a turnoff. Overemphasizing money and benefits. We know you need to get paid, we know you need benefits, but if you make it all about that, it looks like that's all you care about. And again, we want to see that you're interested in this position. And then finally, failing to follow up after an interview. You should send an email, a card, a note, anything, something afterward, expressing appreciation to the interviewer, and if you're interested, letting him know that. Let's discuss some common interview questions and what employers are really looking for. Tell me about yourself. What this should not be is where you were born, how many kids you have, how many divorces you have. This should focus on your education and experience as it relates to the position. Name some of your strengths and weaknesses. We have no trouble generally talking about our strengths. It's the weaknesses that trip people up. I encourage you to give an answer that's a legitimate weakness, but then talk about what you're doing to get better at that. One of the examples I give is that I talk too fast. And then I can share about some of the classes I've taken and things I've put in place to help me get better about that. What kind of people do you find difficult to work with? They want to know if you're going to get along with their team and whether they have some of these difficult people on their team. What are your career goals? Say whatever's true, but the ideal answer is you want to work up within the company. They want to see if this is a legitimate step in your career or if it's just a stepping stone and something you took because you can't find something else. Do you prefer to work in a team or alone? They're trying to look for that fit between the position and the person. If you prefer to work in a team, but this is a solo position, or vice versa, that's something they want to know ahead of time. It's totally fine, by the way, to say that you're good with both. Why do you want to change jobs? They want to know if things have gone south with your current employer and if there's anything they need to know. And then why should I hire you? This is a great opportunity to shine. Talk about how awesome you are and special and unique and wonderful and what sets you apart from everybody else who they may be interviewing. There are some important steps to take to make sure you close the interview effectively. The first is ask about the next steps in the process. You should not leave the interview until you are clear about what happens next and when you should expect to hear from somebody. And I encourage you to ask permission to follow up if you have not heard back by the date that they set. Thank the interviewer. Even if at some point during the process you've decided you're no longer interested, they still took time out of their busy day to meet with you, and you owe them a thank you. And then follow up. Write a thank you letter, note, card, and send it on in to anyone that you've met with. And then finally, express your enthusiasm for the position. If you're interested in the job, make sure that comes across that you let them know that you want this job and that you feel like you're a great fit. In sharing these tips and information, I have now given you keys to interview success. Good luck. I hope you found these skills for interview success helpful. If you're interested in getting deeper or even having live one-on-one coaching with me for interviewing, please contact me at the information provided.